Artificial intelligence, yes, the word disrupting your world and mine. So, without further ado, hello and welcome to AI Pulse. I'm Kiran Satya, a ever curious learner and participant in some of the most interesting industry conversations. And joining me here is Rajeev Nanda, a seasoned techie, author, and thought leader. Rajiv currently heads the AI practice at IT Solly and has been at the forefront of several waves of emerging tech. Rajiv, thank you so much for taking the time and welcome to AI Pulse.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Right. So we will dive right in. So, Rajiv, having worked in the US ecosystem, right? What are the key differences that you see between AI, either on AI innovation or building AI when it comes to US and India? And I'm asking this question to you because you've run teams here in India. So, do you see any key differences when it comes to innovation, specifically with AI?
So I don't think it's specific to AI. I think it is, even if you look at the digital phone revolution, like cell phone revolution, or even before that, client server revolution. So I think the India is much far ahead, in the curve on adoption of new technology than actually building the new technology. So for example, let's go back to like almost 40 years ago when I started my career. Uh, India actually rode on the wave of client-server computing, while US and all the Western countries were still stuck in the mainframe, era. They were stuck in that mainframe era for almost like 10, 20 years, and but India leapfrogged ahead. The same thing happened with the cell phones. The same thing happened with the earlier like web technologies. And it's the same thing happening as of today. The difference is that the rate of adoption with I think would be 10x than it was with earlier technologies. So I would say that's the key difference that I see. Adoption versus creating the new technology.
Sure, sure. And is the industry over indexing on any particular area of AI right now, according to you?
Rephrase the question so that I can answer it better.
Sure. So, typically in the industry, do you see any specific area within AI which has been over indexed, or there's a lot of overthinking about that particular area within AI?
Oh yeah, yeah. I think LLMs are overrated. The AI is much, much, much more than just LLMs. Right now, we are going through the hype cycle of agentic AI, but people are not actually understanding what exactly is agentic AI. They think that creating a claw bot or the open claw or having some scripts running is all you need for agentic AI. I think but this is a cycle that we will go through. 2 years ago, everybody was just LLMs. You know, I would be in meetings and people would say, okay, where are you using AI? And I would explain to them computer vision, NLP, and all the foundational uh, capabilities of AI, and they would say, no, but you're not using LLM, so you're not using AI, right? So I think it's the education and the hype and the awareness of what AI is all about will take time. But right now, as of recording of this, I think LLMs are fading away. They are becoming like they have already become a commodity, which I wrote in one of my blog almost 2 years ago. And right now, agentic AI is the latest shining toy.
Sure, sure. But with compute, the compute costs are being so high. How should investors evaluate burn differently from AI startups compared to that of traditional SaaS companies?
So see, a very interesting question because I think we need to do a little deep dive on that uh, to explain what AI is all about. So there are key areas of AI, especially like training model, foundational models, whether it is a LLM, whether it's a prediction model, whatever kind of model that you want to build. So there are three areas. One is where you talk about the model training or pre-training. So now they are actually fragmenting it to pre-training. We review all the data and all the which like, do you want to use transformers, the architecture, or do you want to use encoder only, decoder only, or combination of multiple architecture, right? So data is one. Then the second one becomes the model architecture or architectures, and then it becomes the training, right? So and then now they are also separating out the post training, and then the final is inference. So if, let's say, I am an investor and I want to be where the technology is created, I would focus on somewhere between pre-training and training. If I'm an investor where I'm going to focus on technology or AI adoption, I would focus on inference, post-training and inference. So it depends on where are you targeting, and what exactly is your investment strategy. Are you looking for creating another OpenAI, or are you looking at creating a competitor to OpenClaw or something like that? So that's where because this is getting fragmented, and I think it will get more fragmented moving forward. Because now I'm sure NVIDIA has their their conference this week, and I'm sure that they are going to start talking about inference only engines. So what that means is that now you don't need to carry the burden of training, post training, and everything, which was actually earlier a big monolithic cost. Now the cost of inference only engines may be drastically reduced. So it depends on where you are targeting, what your strategy is. It short term, long term? Are you focused on consumers? Are you focused on the enterprise? Are you focused on, let's say, government,
Right.
national security? But that's a different ball game altogether.
Sure. So that brings to an even more interesting, follow-up question on this. Uh, Typically in India, what we've seen is a lot of AI, let's say AI startups or, SaaS startups who are claiming to be AI native company. How do investors differentiate between an AI native company versus just an AI wrapper?
Well, I asked them, typically I run into, some of these companies because, I am also, as a side thing, I do advisory to startups. And the key question I start asking them is, okay, tell me what model architecture are you using? So, about a month ago, there was another startup that actually wanted me on their advisory board. I said, okay, show me, what you have developed. And ultimately, it was exactly what you said, just wrappers. So those companies will, would be in the, corporate graveyard, just like the dot-com bust when that happened. So that will happen very soon. So, because if you look at the big daddies like OpenAI, the Google, Cloud, Anthropic, and all that, they are coming up with their own agentic frameworks. They're coming up with their own pre-configured AI agents. So all the people who are just focused on creating a wrapper, may have a niche, but most of them will just fade away.
Right. I was in an event yesterday evening. So this was basically with Google Cloud. So I had one of these, architects talk about what they're constructing on Google Cloud. So all the interesting aspect that they've kind of managed to bring in is, so typically there's a data engineer who's more like a plumber. Then you have your
Mhm.
data analyst. Then then you have your data sciences, which is your algorithms, and then governance, right? So independently, Google Cloud has actually managed to do all of these as independent agents, which is wrapped in one particular tool, And they claim to say that even when you want to kind of move away from an AWS or an Azure, even the data can just be inherited because they run on BigQuery, right? So some of the very interesting aspects when enterprises are trying to do this, I'm not. I would love for you to give us some insight here to say when a large enterprise, because you're naturally competing with with Google or any other large enterprise. I certainly don't understand independently when AI companies kind of are targeting to attack one problem at a time, but with the kind of petabytes of data that Google is sitting on, right? It's easier for them to kind of replicate any startup. Any thoughts there?
So, there are multiple questions that you have asked with this, right? So let's uh, you know, like focus on few of them.
No.
So one, Google missed the boat. They are catching up, and they are catching up fairly nicely. But there are some fundamental problems with Google, the way they have trained the model, the data that they have, and all that. So the governance model that they have, right? So there are some fundamental problems that I think Google models will shine on specific things. But as of today, if I'm a coder, I'm not very impressed with them. I'm very impressed with them on the multimodal, like creating memes or creating video, like the text to speech and all that. And there's a reason behind that, and we can do a little deep dive in there. Now, coming then the earlier statements that you made in terms of enterprise trying to compete with Google, they don't need to. See, the most of the enterprise will be a consumer of AI. They are not going to build models for large public. Yes, they may be actually taking a foundational model and retraining it on their own data, which is what they should do anyway. They should not be using Claude or OpenAI or some of the the big daddies, because I personally think that the strategic advantage for enterprise is to use some of these pre-trained models and retrain them on their own data, because then you will have a very strategic advantage of, amongst your peers. Now, and then the other question that you said about data, data engineer and all that. So there are two roles in data. As of today, people just talk about data engineer, which is, yeah, no, in a way it is a plumbing job, because you are looking at cleaning the data, deduplicating, a lot of the, you're making the data as machine readable. But there is, a flavor of data engineering, what, the industry term, people use is data scientist. And that, I think, is becoming or will become very important role in AI, because data scientist or a data engineer who has that ability to identify the patterns in the data, to identify what we call as features in the data on which the model should be trained. So here's an example. Let's say that you are a small company or a medium-sized company who sells or who is in real estate, right? So you are trying to now use AI to predict what should I price this particular house. No, now I'm taking an example of US, but you could take the example anywhere. So you can. So let's say I'm in Santa Clara today. Now, if you look at all these, the Silicon Valley, most of the houses are literally 50, 70 years old. The house I reside in today is 70-year-old, more than 7. While the house next door, is in the same shape as it was 70 years old, right? Now, how do you build a predictive model to say what should the value of my house versus the house next door? It's a very interesting AI challenge, because typically what would people say is a data engineer or people who don't actually understand the feature engineering aspect of the AI, they'll say, well, square footage, number of bedrooms, number of bathrooms, kitchen, this, that, all that. What's the plot size or lot size. So these are the features that you do. But then you are actually going to undersell my house and oversell the other one, and neither will be sold. Right? Because I'm not going to undersell my house, and if a buyer comes to the other house and they say, well, this is not worth, $1 million, $2 million, whatever X dollars, right? So this becomes more of a data scientist problem. So what they will need to do is look at, are these the only features that we should be looking at? Should we look at, and these are public records, right? So this is not something that is private. So, whenever, let's say, I upgrade my house, I have to submit the plan to the city and they approve it, and also these are all public data. So they will have, now a data scientist will say, well, these are basic parameters, but I'm going to add more features to predictions, saying that when was the kitchen renovated? What was the material used in the renovation? What are the appliances? Right. So now this is where the AI prediction and all that will become very, very, I would say, accurate and more robust.
Right.
So very long answer to the question you said, but there are multiple things that I want to address. Data engineer, yes, but I think you missed the data scientist.
Right.
Which is I think data engineer plus data scientist should combine over time.
Right.
And because the data scientist is expected to, do some experiments after data engineering of the data, and then come up with a hypothesis that, hey, I think that these are the features that we should include in our model prediction.
Right. Right. So that also brings me to another question, right? We are seeing non-engineering professionals move to AI roles, at this time. What core skills matter today to someone building a career in AI?
Yeah. I think I wrote it in my blog maybe about a year ago. I think the biggest thing that people should do who are techies or who are going on a technical path, they should take some kind of linguistic skills. People who are non-techies, they should take at least some technical know-how, because the future is going to be very conversational AI. So today, I can actually set, Cloud Code or Codex or Gemini or what. I can give instructions, build me a XYZ, let's say, simple, let's take a simple example. Build me a JavaScript and HTML page with MySQL, and I want to achieve this. And I explain that. The issue that I have seen, the technical people are not very accurately expressive. What they will say is, they will give a very vague two-liner, similar to what they complain about their users today. If a techie, if you talk to techies, they'll say, the user cannot even build their requirements. So I'm only building whatever they are saying as requirement. And the users come with the requirement, okay, I want a checkbox here, or I want a radio button here, right? But why do you want it? So, but that's a linguistic skill. That is not a technical skill. I may be the best programmer, but if I fail at linguistics, I will really be miserable at using AI as a code developer. And the same thing happens on the non-technical side. If, let's say, I'm very good at describing the requirements, but have no clue about how the technology works, then in my blog I talk about AI slop, right? So the LLMs are getting better, but I don't think that they will reach a point where you'll say no further improvement required. So they generate code, but they generate code which is very, very verbose. So what can be done in 100 lines of code, they will generate like 1,000 lines of code. So you need at least some technical know-how to understand, okay, if I have to debug, I have to verify whether what I said was met or not. So I think it's going to be very, very interesting, I think, future. And this is the generation that is going through the college today I think we'll have a very, very tough time to immediately switch over to AI adoption from both technology and non-technology side, because all our education system, and this is globally, not just India or US or anywhere, has been very structured towards a particular outcome, but the outcomes are changing. I think kids who are in high school today will have a much better trajectory on their career with AI. So it's the kind of you're stuck in a rock and a hard place kind of a thing, right? So the children, I literally empathize with the children or the kids who are actually in the college as of today, because the world is shifting much faster than they can actually pivot. Some will, but most will not.
Right, right. And Rajiv, how do you see demand for AI leadership evolving inside companies?
That's a very interesting question. AI leadership. So here's the deal, right? Uh, see, before AI came in, right? So let's talk about what leadership was at that time, like the technical leadership or IT leadership or whatever you want to call it, was very, very deterministic. They would say, I need a supply chain solution, or I need a HR solution or something. And the reason is because I want to solve a particular problem. My, let's take a supply chain, my logistic and transportation, I want to reduce my cost and so forth, right? Now, AI is not at all about that. AI is more about predictions and probabilities and possibilities. So a leader who is not imaginative, one. Second, who is not risk taker. And third, who is not willing to which is part of risk taker, experiment and pivot, will not be able to you know lead a AI team. So I would say, if I have to narrow down to top three AI leadership traits, one would be vision, that you have to have a vision. What do you want to achieve? Not what you want to get done, but what do you want to achieve? Now, do you want to have the best marketing campaigns in particular area to for whatever the things that you let's say you want to differentiate your products from your competitors, right? So now achieving would be where you say, I want to gain market share from whatever today I'm 10%, I want to achieve 15%, 20%. That's a very clear statistical measurement that you can do. But the vision would be that I want to come up with a marketing campaign that is very different, but sends home the message that this is what we stand for, right? So the vision is one. Second is risk taking, because what AI has done is that now you can experiment and fail much faster and then recover and from that much faster than you could earlier. Earlier, you would, let's say you want to do a prototype, it would, you'll have to go to the IT department, and then they will have to, they will do a resource allocation, they'll ask for budget and so forth. And then, 6 months down the line, you may have a half-baked prototype. Now with AI, you can literally have a prototype within 2 weeks. And prototype can be done by non-IT team. So risk taking is the second one. And the third one is obviously understanding that AI is not compute, it is predictions, it is probabilities, it is something more of what we call as cognition. So once you understand this, I think then that I think that leader will be able to Now, this is I'm talking about from enterprise and all that, right? I'm not talking about where, let's say, you are, NVIDIA, right? You are actually the creating the tools to generate AI or create AI. So that's a different thing. But I'm talking about the general, enterprise.
Right, right. And in your opinion, right, today a lot of investments are happening, and founders hire head of AI. But are there any early signals or metrics, that show that AI roadmap is moving the right direction?
Um, Not necessarily. And the reason is because when you talk to the CEOs today or even CTOs today, and I talk to many of them, and when I ask them, okay, tell me what do you want to get done? The question boomerangs to me, and okay, what can AI do for me? But that is the wrong question to ask. What that means is that signals to me that this person has no clue about what AI is all about. He or she is simply looking at, okay, can I build a new app, or can I build a new HR solution or a knowledge based solution and all that. So it depends, I would say.
Right. And lastly, Rajiv, if you had to kind of bet on one AI application that is similar to email for that matter, right? And 5 years from now, but that doesn't exist today, right? So one AI application that you will kind of bet on, which is as common as email, 5 years from now, what would that be?
I would not bet on any application. You see, this is where I want to actually um, differentiate from saying that there will be one application. If if you are going to share my website, with the listeners, I I wrote my first book, the everything.com, was published back in 2001. And in the last chapter of that book, and that I've uploaded the free PDF if people want to read it. So I talked about language to language translation. I talked about smart homes. I talked about many other things that are actually unfolding today, on 20-25 years later, right? So I don't think that there will be one application per se. What I would bet on is the right AI agentic framework. And this is also, I wrote about this in the indirect terms. I call them, I think, um, I forget what I called them at that time. The article was published in both Silicon India in the US and DataQuest in India. I used to write for these two magazines, and Computer World in India. So I talked about the AI agents, not AI agents, but I think I said the software agents or something like that. So I'm very, even today I'm very gung ho on AI agentic framework. And I think if let's say somebody comes to me and says that I have an AI agentic framework like OpenClaw, came on the screen, um, and that will give you these abilities to do this is, and it will help you like this. That is definitely one thing I will be very big on. Now, if you talk about AI solution, right? So there, I definitely would bet on one thing, and that is somebody who can create a AI box, like you have a router or a modem in your house. I can plug it into my network, and it manages my entire house. It manages my firewall. It manages all the media and everything. AI box would be something I would very heavily bet on. But that's a hardware plus software solution,
Right. Yeah.
not just purely software. There is no, so the concept of applications will go away.
Sure.
So what will replace that is the AI agents that are able to do one thing for you, and you have a swarm of agents rather than have a monolithic app that is trying to do everything for you.
Right.
So if you look at today, you even Facebook or whatever apps that you use, WhatsApp, you are literally using maybe 20 or 30% of the full capabilities.
Right.
But with AI agents, the difference would be that whichever agent you sign up to or hire, you will be using 100% of their capabilities.
And Rajiv, what is the next big thing that you anticipate, right? With the kind of, I mean, we've heard that AI are building communities among themselves. So, what do you foresee? You know,
No, they do not. No, that was all fluff. People were behind those communities, and they were so no. No. See, this is where I think people don't understand. The AI is not conscious.
right,
To build a community, you have to be conscious. Today, between your two prompts, the Chat GPT or Gemini or Claude is not doing anything. It is not thinking and saying, okay, let me wait for another prompt, and then or maybe I don't know whether the user will ask me this question or this question. No, absolutely nothing. So just because this prediction system is responding to us in a language that we understand, we assume it is conscious. It is not. So, so that question, I would say is irrelevant.
sure, sure. So, thank you. I mean, look, we are all learners at the end of the day.
Oh yeah.
Trying to
Yeah.
trying to
You get we get fooled very easily.
I don't know if AI is doing that to us, or some of the leaders who are who've been kind of doing AI for a while now, right? For example, Anthropic, for that matter, right? They launched something called as COBOL, which kind of replaces all applications within the banking ecosystem, which actually brought down the IBM stock price
Yes.
by 10, right? In just about a
Yeah.
day's
Yeah.
that was launched.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
some of these are myth, some of these are to be, you know, really true to be kind of understood whether it's true or not. But yeah, we're all there learning every day and trying to understand where we are heading, right? So
And some of these are corporate warfare.
true. I
So
with that, yes.
so whether the Claude understands COBOL and can do anything about COBOL, maybe a misinformation that is more of corporate warfare than anything else.
I will have to go with you because you're the expert, and I
And no, I'm not the expert, but I understand it, much better because I've been in AI and machine learning for almost 8 to 10 years now.
absolutely, absolutely. And Rajiv, thank you so much, for joining us and kind of sharing such clear and grounded perspective on some of the truly interesting concepts shaping AI today, right?
Thank you.
Been a pleasure to having you on AI Pulse, and I personally thank you for taking the time out and sharing such valuable insights. And we hope that we get to do more of this in the near future.
Absolutely. Anytime. Yeah. Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure to talk.
Likewise, thank you so much.